And a very good afternoon, depending on what part of the world you're in. If you're in South Africa, it's afternoon. And a warm welcome to this SIGCyber webinar of the Institute of IT Professionals South Africa. SIGCyber is our cybersecurity special interest group, and we are delighted to have all of you joining us. The numbers are climbing rapidly, so thank you for joining us. My name is Tony Parry. I'm the Chief Executive of the Institute of IT Professionals South Africa, and it is my pleasure to welcome all of you this afternoon, and especially to welcome our guest speaker, Dr. Phahlamohlaka, who is a member of our institute. He is also our General Assembly representative at the International Federation of Information Processing, which is the worldwide umbrella body for computer societies and associations and so on, and we're the South African country member. And Dr. Jackie represents us at the General Assembly, which means he kind of heads up the Council Committee of Technical Representatives in South Africa as well. So Dr. Jackie is the chief researcher at the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, the CSIR, and it's really, really good to have you with us here this afternoon, Dr. Jackie. Thank you so much for giving up your time and the work that you prepared in the presentation, which, as we see in front of us, is the South African National Efforts in Building Cybersecurity Capabilities, etc. So without further ado, Dr. Jackie, I'm going to hand over to you. You can certainly introduce yourself further, please, because you'll do that far better than I will. And I'll be here if you need me. And as I say to the delegates, welcome. There is a chat group, both an open chat and a Q&A tab, which feel free to use. And we look forward to an interesting session with Dr. Jackie. So, Dr. Jackie, over to you. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Tony, and good afternoon to the people on the call. Indeed, I am Jackie Phahlamohlaka. I work for the CSIR as a chief researcher, as introduced. And today, I will be entertaining you, at least for the next 40 minutes. And hopefully there will still be some time for discussion. I am pleased to have this opportunity to engage with you. It's a sharing of perspective, and hopefully it generates some interest to IITPSA members and interested people. The outline, I want to share with you what I am aware of about the building of cybersecurity capabilities for South Africa. But I also want to take a quick look at how we are doing with respect to formal qualifications and underline formal qualifications in cybersecurity. And hopefully there will be some discussions emanating from what I will share with you. I will go straight to it, and I am sharing with you what I am aware of. And if there are some other capabilities out there that are being built in cybersecurity that I would not have mentioned, it means that either I may not be aware of, or maybe it just slipped my preparation. This slide shows you what I would call the national cybersecurity ecosystem. And it lists 4 key departments in South Africa. And these departments are in line with what was included in the National Cybersecurity Policy Framework when it was approved in 2012 by Cabinet in 2012. The key departments are in the security cluster, Department of Communication and Digital Technologies, Department of Defense, State Security Agency, and the SAPS, South African Police Services. In each of these departments was given specific, I would say, tasks. I would call them tasks, but they were, in a way, if you like, you can say it was the marching orders, what they needed to do from the National Cybersecurity Policy Framework. They needed to develop the policies themselves and then come up with strategies and implementation plan. But they were not the only departments. There are other departments that also needed to play their role, such as the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, Department of Science and Innovation, which is the department to which the CSIR, which I work for, reports to support all of them from research, development, innovation point of view. So each of them needed to establish some structures that needed to, play the coordinating role, and then the justice, crime prevention, and security cluster basically bound them together. So this I would call the national cybersecurity ecosystem. So this were the key departments. We, from the CSIR side, as a national government business enterprise that reports to the Department of Science and Innovation, played a key role, and that's obviously I am more aware because this is also my employer, and I am more aware of what the CSIR contributed to the ecosystem, and therefore it's the natural starting point for me. I am more aware of the work that is done here at the CSIR than by the other instances. So a big part of my talk and of what I am aware of in terms of the capabilities being built in contribution to that ecosystem that I have just shown, it's been done here at the CSIR. And at the CSIR, we have at the center of the diagram that you are looking at is the ICSC, Information and Cybersecurity Center, that the CSIR established in 2019. Of course, it wasn't the actual starting time, but only the organizational part in terms of how it organized itself. But otherwise, it had been doing work related to cybersecurity over many years. And the other departments within the CSIR, which I am not going to spend talking about, are listed there, such as the aeronautic system, and then command control and integrated systems, the land-based systems, and so on. So the Information and Cybersecurity Center sits in the middle and connects. Almost nearly all of them have to play their role with regard to capabilities that come from the cyber domain. So what it had to deal with, it had to build capabilities that were necessary or were seen necessary from the CSIR point of view. And what you are looking at is how the Information and Cybersecurity Center organized itself so that it could effectively build capabilities in cybersecurity. It organized itself in 4 main research groups: the secure identity systems, the governance, privacy, and trust, the data security and analytics, and the cybersecurity systems. In each of these, what you are seeing, the little blocks there, talks to specific capabilities that are being built in the center, following directed research, mostly from those the ecosystem that I have indicated, including what the other necessary capabilities that are identified by the CSIR itself in relation to what is happening elsewhere in the world. So the CSIR as the main research council in the country is not only conducting its research and building capabilities only in response to those, the ecosystem as I have shown you, but also aligning and benchmarking really with what's going on in the rest of the world. And that is why on top you will see those who are in the information or cybersecurity space, and I imagine because this is the special interest group in cyber, I imagine most people would be familiar with the NIST framework that is followed internationally, which is a framework that is developed largely from the US, but it's almost adopted around the world. Detection, protection, prediction, responding and recovery. So this is the framework that when we build these capabilities around these 4 areas, for instance, secure identity systems, you know, whether we are talking about the fingerprints, we are talking about the e-tags, we are talking about the Internet of Things, the optical coherence tomography, distributed ledger. Those are some of the areas or technologies or outputs and also eventually outcomes that typically would come out of the secure identity systems. And then on governance, privacy and trust, you'll have cybersecurity governance, the policy audits and compliance, cybersecurity strategies, privacy and trust as well, and security assessment and cybersecurity engineering broadly. And then under analytics, we will have end-to-end encryption, the web security, disaster recovery, digital forensics, and so on. Cybersecurity systems, capabilities, information warfare, which is something that comes from the involvement of the CSIR over many years in support of the Department of Defense, security performance testing, threat intelligence, and cybersecurity modeling and simulation, mostly from an experimentation as an approach to building these technologies, and as an approach to actually undertaking R&D work. So this slide contains what we currently are doing as the CSIR, what the CSIR is doing. Some of these are already, some of these are technologies that already can be showcased. Some of them have been developed in-house to support one of one or more of those departments that I have shown as constituting the ecosystem. So if you like, you would say, yeah, the CSR is really at the core of building of capabilities nationally. Of course, there are capabilities that are developed as well in some of our universities and some of the private sector. But by and large, I would say the center of gravity sits at the CSIR. And we have been involved for quite some time in following an approach that we learned from the defense, because this is the environment where planning is done on a long-term basis, and researchers can work and plan over a long time to experiment with different things as they build this capability. So we even adopted this process of building capabilities that is called posted fit. The defense people in the defense space understand this very well because we work very closely with them. We adopted and we applied it in many of the technologies that we are building, and it works very well. It really works very well. In other words, when building capabilities, you look at the personnel, you look at the organization, the support system, the training. So that posted fit actually indicates the components or the elements that are actually required when you build or when you are undertaking the process of building capabilities, especially on a large scale. And what we have been doing, the little blocks that you see in here are actually describing some of the capabilities that we were able to build using this approach. And then from time to time, we look at how each of these capability elements, if I may call that, we look at how they would integrate each other seamlessly in order to respond to a specific task or a specific threat that might be there. And as part of doing this, especially from the CSIR side, we use the concept of smart buyer and smart user advisory. And it works very well because, in servicing the ecosystem that I have, the national ecosystem that I have shown in the first slide, we work with them. So we would serve as in-house strategic advisor to them. If in case they would like to acquire large systems, we would embed ourselves as the CSR within their environment and provide them the in-house strategic support. So for buying and also for decision making. So that smart buyer, smart user advisory, it's part of what the CSR does to assist and service that ecosystem. And what I'm just showing here is just one suite of capabilities or technologies that are homegrown. And if you look at the bottom here, the bottom left, you see the ID that all of us are using in the country. The card, that smart card. It's just one example of the technologies that have been developed here at the CSIR. And those who are working in the biometric space would acknowledge that this is quite an achievement. On an annual basis, and guided by the national prescripts, as I have explained in the ecosystem, on an annual basis, the CSR would challenge its researchers, engineers to say, what are you seeing in the horizon in the next few years, 10 years, 20 years or so? What is it that needs to be done? Can you propose? And then the colleagues do propose, what they propose is run through a competitive process, and they would, if what they are proposing can point something that must happen in 20, 15 years or so, for which work needs to be done now, some amount will be allocated, and then colleagues will then undertake the type of research to solve, or at least anticipate what kind of solution would be required by that time. So, and we call these projects that get funded in that way to do this, to undertake the strategic initiatives. We call them strategic projects. And in the center, I am in a fortunate position because I oversee these projects. And what I'm showing you here, for instance, is work that was done over the past the few years. And some of the colleagues actually have contributed in the development of these capabilities and technologies that are sitting here. So we use these strategic projects to develop people, but also technologies and outputs that are, some of which may need to be commercialized. And from time to time, we look for, or the CSR looks for the SMMEs out there, enterprises out there that could want to try out one or two of the technologies that come from the CSR environment, almost all the time, because we are in an R&D space. Once we have developed the technology, a demonstrator, additional funding that might come from those that are interested would be needed to take the demonstrator to the market, and that we find that it is quite some, it takes quite some effort to convert a technology demonstrator to a product. So people I think in the Cyber from IITPSA, because you are all in this space, you please don't keep looking the CSR way. If you look for some of the technologies that you may want to invest a little bit of money, perhaps they might be relevant to your space, but generally they get developed in response to a client out there. We say we do directed research. In fact, we actually do that. If we are not directed, it's very unlikely, except in instances where we, as the CSR, we can see that this needs to be done, even if it's not directed by anybody. But that we do, the CSR does to a very limited extent. To a very large extent, we do directed research. We respond to a challenge out there where a client or one of the ecosystem or even the private sector would say, here is the problem, here is the challenge that we have. So most of the technologies are in response to these challenges that are directed by specific client. Currently, as I have indicated, as part of this building these capabilities, currently we have about 15 strategic projects that I'm overseeing as a chief researcher here. And you can see they are aligned to those 4 research groups: HoneyNet, in the cybersecurity RG, project certified, specific projects that are undertaken to build this capability. In the secure identity systems, we have decentralized digital identity, zero knowledge proof. And in governance, privacy, and trust, we have about 4 projects: digital forensics, learning factory, the POPI, compliance assessment toolkit, and cloud security readiness assessment. And in the data and security analytics, we have the EXA, the project, and the mobile, the MSAP. And this very, very small budget to undertake this strategic project, as you can see, is 15, and then we have about 15M. But what we try to do, we try to minimize the number of projects that may need to be undertaken, so that at least some substantial amount of money could be spent on to support a few projects. But for the current year, that's the situation. We have 15 of them. One of the very, very important outcome or capability is what we call the Virtual Cybersecurity Center, which is a facility here that also comes from this the strategic projects. And this facility enables us to do remotely support across the ecosystem with threat intelligence, incident management, vulnerability management, digital forensics, and even governance, compliance, and risk assessment. We have a facility that we have here that we use to provide this support to local government, and to a very, very large extent, this facility now it's used very, very much to support, provide cybersecurity support to the city of Johannesburg. And this is done both physically but also remotely. So the CSIR is very happy to have been given this opportunity we build this in conjunction with the city, and the results are quite good, if I may say. And then we also, there are some building of capabilities to basically support enterprises. And here is just one example, one enterprise that we have been working with over the years to build, to transfer some of the in-house build capability to them. One of our technologies called Cyber Protect, they are able to employ this in their space, and hopefully they are making some money. But for us, for the CSIR, the important thing is the transfer of the technology and to capacitate them. And we don't play where they actually play. We capacitate them and support them. So they were one of those that were able to come and look at what the CSIR is doing as one of the institutions that are building these national capabilities. Because we run conferences from time to time, we try to showcase what we are doing, and we do talks like we are doing now. And you can, if you like one or two things that I'm saying, you can come to the CSIR, and then you can tell us you heard about it, or you have seen it, or you would like to see it, and then from there we collaborate, and hopefully you find something that you can take to the market. Some of the resources, some of the clients, some of the collaborators that I am showing there, you can see it's quite some list. The other ones are those that gives certifications. In other words, some of our researchers are not only building these technologies, but they also need to keep up to date, seeing that we don't, some of the certifications we need to get from the private sector, as we are not, we don't have enough there ourselves as the country, and some of the partners and stakeholders, we work with them, but our own researchers needs to be capacitated as well in terms of these types of certifications that we have, as we work towards these formal qualifications that I will later talk about, because so far it's certifications given by private providers, but our formal institutions lagging slightly behind, which is part of this talk. This is just showing you some of the technologies that get produced from time to time. You see on the left, you start on the left, we use what is called technology readiness levels at the CSIR as we build this technology, build these capabilities. So TRL1s, basically we start, and then we, proof of concept, and then we can start with the development of the product, then we can pilot, and then eventually we go to the actual manufacturing and commercialization, that is TRL, basically from TRL 7, 8, and 9. Here we typically work with the enterprise SMME out there, to which we could transfer the capability or the technology. So I am spending quite a lot of time I spend a lot of time also on the CSIR, as I indicated, because, as I said, I think this is where the center of gravity mostly lie. About 80 people specifically just in the center that are dedicated to do that. I don't think there is any other institution in the country that has that concentration of researchers specifically dedicated to cybersecurity and the building of these capabilities, even though, of course, there are other entities at universities and the private sector. So what I'm showing you here, it's a typical arrangement, a national set, which we have. It's called the National Cybersecurity Hub, which is hosted here at the CSIR as well, but it's hosted on behalf of the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. It's a national set, and the other sets that are linked to the other institutions are also working very closely with the national set. And then we also do have, we are aware of UCT that has a set for the higher education. I don't know which other university has that, but I'm aware of UCT as a set, and then the Department of Defense, the State Security, I think. But yeah, this is one of the deployment actions options. And as you can see, they're still following the NIST framework. What I'm showing you now, it's still written DST RDI agenda. It's a little bit dated, but I thought I must include it here because this is one of the early efforts that were undertaken some 2014, 15 to try and respond in support of the DST, because the RDI was the DST was the one that needed to provide support from research, development, and innovation side. It needed to provide that across the ecosystem that I've shared with you in the beginning. So I happen to have been part of this task team that did this work, and it identified the areas. I think it was 16 themes that were identified with 4 targeted cross-cutting programs that were proposed. And there you can see the programs that were proposed then in the 14, 15, identity, privacy, and trust, benefits and approach to international cooperation, legislative framework, cybercrime investigation and prosecution, cloud and mobile security, business case security innovations by local SME, protection against malicious software, cybersecurity awareness. There you can see digital forensics, network security, critical infrastructure, and so on. So you can see those 16 themes that came from that study. This was a DST study, which would have been implemented by the various universities throughout the country, to calculate, to develop capabilities and capacity and qualifications down the line. And my knowledge and what I will share with you later is that actually there is still a lot of work to do in terms of from a qualifications point of view. And the building of capabilities in the areas that have been identified. I think there is still quite a lot of work that needs to be done. When we were doing basically the path of establishing this, the Information and Cybersecurity Center here, the CSIR, we had to do a national, we had to look at the country, look at who is doing who and how they are succeeding from a capability building point of view. And you can see here we listed quite a number of departments looking at the pipeline, the experts, who do we have out there, the platforms that are there. You can see CSR industry and then international players in terms of the RDI infrastructure. I think the CSR is in a privileged position in as far as some of the best state of the art labs and infrastructure is sitting here. Of course, it's available to all the universities, but in terms of the local SME and the service providers and the various, in terms of actually having those sector sets established sector by sector, as you have seen from the other diagram that I have shown for the national set, I would say it's still a long way to go, work in progress. In terms of government support, these are those key departments that I have shown in in the ecosystem, but others as well, such as Home Affairs and which one wasn't there? I think the other ones they were, yeah, the other ones I've mentioned. So if you look at the various initiatives, they were dictating that we need to look at as a nation, as a country, we needed to look at this a coordinated way of building this national cybersecurity capabilities. And at that stage, the thinking was that perhaps we need to establish this National Cyber Capability Center. So that was part of what we did in what we call the synapse then. And then now, as we speak, I think 2 or 3 years ago, the implementation of what others may remember, the decadal plan, because it was talked about quite a lot. Department of Science and Innovation said, now we must go foundational digital capabilities research approach to build this capability. So going foundational, and that's what we are doing. And again, the CSIR focusing, very focused, but working with quite a number of institutions that work with it, mostly universities and other research institutes, building these digital capabilities. So what I'm showing you, it's basically the what is in those what constitute the domains that are being undertaken by the various collaborating entities. And we from the Information and Cybersecurity Center, we are in domain 3, that is focusing on blockchain and cybersecurity. And we are doing those 4. The capabilities that are being built are built around what I'm showing you, those 4 bullets: authentication, detection and analysis, governance and legal compliance, and catalyzing a blockchain ecosystem in South Africa. This is what is currently being done. And apologies, I show you this what we call the journey map. The intention was that you don't have to try and read what is there, but the intention was to just show you the diagram of how the CSR, in collaboration with the various stakeholders, organized how to organize itself in line with the directives that it was getting from the DSI. So there are about those detection analysis, and then governance and legal compliance, and then authentication. And each one, runs in 3-year cycles, and every time counting is called rolling plan, to try and building these capabilities. And there are some figures, financial figures that were projected, but don't count on those ones, because they were mostly, they do change, but at least they give an indication that there is a national effort. In the building of national capabilities, pulling whoever is able to come on board to collaborate. There are some deliverables that are defined, 3 years, in 3 years cycle, And in the strategic projects that I have shared with you, that's how the CSR is also trying to respond. But it's not just the CSIR. It is the CSR in collaboration with the other entities and universities. For instance, in authentication, those are the topics: self-sovereign identity, enhancing the quality control through certifications, value access, safety, zero trust authentication, secure embedded identity authentication, smart identity. And then in the detection and analysis, increasing the trustworthiness of the products. So in that journey map, these bullets are actually being described and converted, and the strategic projects that are currently running are aligned with these three in domain 3. And then governance and legal compliance, for instance, reduction of centralization of compliance and regulation checks, improving authentication of information that is publicized, automated cybersecurity capability testing and compliance. CSR can be able to play a role in especially on testing and compliance. Part of the VSOC, that lab, virtual cybersecurity center is able. There is a lab that within that is able to do. Then the catalyzing and blockchain ecosystem is done by another part within the CSIR. So essentially, I have shown you what the efforts that are undertaken at a national level, largely led from the CSIR, but not all of these are actually national efforts that I am aware of. Of course, I'm also aware, because the CSR works with almost all the universities in the country. So I'm particularly aware of what's going on there as well. And then the cybersecurity bill, I thought one need to just point this out, because we have an act, Cybercrimes Act, that is currently in force. But in terms of cybersecurity, we still have some way to go. There is a bill that was open for public comments until the 24th of June this year, and I also decided to include some of the points. I just included these points as to what the bill entails. I think each of these points indicates what needs to be, what the bill is proposing. It's proposing, if the country succeeds in getting this into become an act and then implement, many of us believe that we will get somewhere in terms of our, at least organizing ourselves as a country to be able to respond to the ever-increasing challenges that we get. We get attacked left, right, and center, and we don't, because we don't have a strategy. Our implementation plan is just all over. So this bill will come in very handy to support the POPIA and then the Cybercrime Act. It's calling on, a centralized body that will be able to collaborate very, very closely with private sector, which is something that we need a lot as a country, because in the ICT space, now close to between 80 and 90% of the infrastructure we have is in the hands of the private sector. So a close collaboration with the private sector in implementing the bill, to me, is the move in the right direction, but we are not there yet. And then the other effort that is currently on as we speak is the effort by the National Advisory Council on Innovation, and it's a Department of Science and Innovation, and the council itself that is working very closely with the CSIR, or with the support of the CSIR, to look at what we have been up to as the country in terms of capabilities in cybersecurity. So this NACI study is a very interesting study, and some of you may have already been consulted, because there are currently workshops that are facilitated by the CSIR, consulting the various stakeholders that I have indicated, mostly government, private sector, academia, and civil society have been consulted. The biggest problem as identified is the fact that South Africa does not have a national cybersecurity RDI strategy and implementation plan, or the roadmap. As a result, many of these efforts could have been better handled and coordinated, but because of this problem, they are not. So the NACI study, which is currently underway, it sets out a case for the national system of innovation to enable the stakeholders to contribute towards the national strategic imperative in a collaborative and coordinated manner through research, development, and innovation, to building a capable and secure state in the information and cybersecurity domain. And this includes the building relevant RDI capabilities and capacity in the information and cybersecurity domain to respond to these challenges. And these challenges they are well documented. There are some gaps. There is a dominance in this space by big foreign players. And yeah, the gaps have been identified. Last week I attended the consultation session, and I did ask this question about the formal qualifications. How far are we as a country, seeing that the certifications are mostly from private providers? And that's this part that I thought is I just want to have a quick look at. And I did ask one of my colleagues, Norman Nelfule, that I am whose work I am acknowledging. He is the one that did this part for me. He checked the various universities to check where we are. And as I was preparing, in addition to what he did, I came across this slide because of our close interaction with the TUT as well. And I found something helpful here, which I thought I think universities needs to look at, seeing that they are proceeding so slowly in terms of building formal qualifications in cybersecurity. This one is I found this slide and I just took a screenshot. It's showing what could go into the curriculum typically. And it's not typical things that go into our engineering and computer science courses, which means that we really need to focus on the curriculation and the content that would go into the actual formal qualification in cybersecurity. And what I liked about this one, and I think it is almost at the point of being registered, maybe it's already registered, but I couldn't establish that. But I like the fact that the TUT is saying in this the MSc cybersecurity, some of the compulsory modules or aspects must be human security, organizational, and societal. And typical of what we do in computer science, engineering, and so on, we don't focus on these things. And then they also have looking at the certificate in cybercrime. This is what I got from how we are doing at South African universities. It is, the slide is very small, but hopefully you can, because you will get the slides, you will see that out of that quick check that my colleague did, we only have 2 universities that have some formal qualification at undergraduate level, which is where we need this the most, and that is at the UP Computer Science, focus in cybersecurity, and Rhodes universities. The others are focusing on postgraduate diplomas and short courses and so on. So yeah, the loop is telling us that we are, from a formal qualifications point of view, we are not doing great. And perhaps private sector must come in and encourage or participate in the curriculation process, so that we have these formal qualifications and not, and not just focus on the short courses and certification by the private providers. This slide I got, we spent some time a while back working with a CPUT, and they came up with some kind of a conceptual model that could be included in a diploma, and also a typical collaboration model, including the TVETs that I'm also not going to go into, but at least the Prof. Alexander at CPUT indicated, some of the efforts that they were doing in the curriculation space. So I was rushing towards the end because I realized that I promised you 15 minutes for the engagement, but I ended up utilizing all the time. But at least I was able to talk through everything that I thought I needed to share with you. And I expect that even if we may not have the time to answer the questions, but at least there will be follow-ups which we can be able to engage. Thank you very much for your patience in listening to me.
Thank you, Dr. Jackie. Really interesting. Lots and lots of information there, and a few people were asking if they'll be able to get the slides, and I think I heard you say that they can get the slides. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So Webinar Jam will provide the list of those who attended, and we'll be able to send them out. Unfortunately, we are out of time, and we are trying to be respectful of people's time. I think maybe just very quickly, Dr. Jackie, there are a couple of questions about certifications and things which someone else has helped to answer, which is great. And I did hear you say that you think one of the areas we really need to focus on is at the postgraduate level, rather than just relying on the certifications and that sort of thing. But Jason Jordan, who is well known to a number of us and who's on the call, thank you, Jason, made a very interesting comment early on in the the webinar, and I'd just very quickly like your response to this. Jason says there is a critical shortcoming in the national cybersecurity ecosystem in that it assumes that cybersecurity is driven by a national government. The private sector is seen as an afterthought. In countries such as the US, UK, and the EU, the private sector is represented as an integrated part of the cybersecurity ecosystem. Your views on that, your comments, please.
I agree, and actually, I fully agree, and but I don't know what the corollary is, but definitely it's something that we are missing as a country. My comment was that between 90 and 80%, 80 and 90% of cyber is driven. The infrastructure is owned by private sector, so actually it doesn't make sense that we just focus on government and then we only later on do we say private sector come on board. It's definitely something that we need to look at, but from the CSIR point of view, as you can see, we would respond because of what the research is telling us, but we stop also at the technology demonstrator. We don't have. We should be able to hand over that demonstrator to the private sector. Yeah. But the challenge is that it is difficult to start with the private sector right from the start when nobody is ready to pay, because private sector wants to be paid. And also there are many other things, IP related things. If you start together, how are you gonna, of course the RSA and the IPR Act that guides us, but private sector, they want to make money. They don't want to be at the, come in early when it's still R&D and you don't really know who's gonna make any money out of it. So there are many reasons. Yeah, but I really agree with the observation.
Awesome. Dr. Jackie, thank you so much. I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut us off there because we are already a couple of minutes over. But a really interesting presentation. There's so much information to absorb here. I, as you know, have been privileged enough to visit the CERT at the CSIR previously, and so thank you for that opportunity. But yeah, to all our delegates, particularly Prof. Kerry Lynn Thompson, who's the chair of our SIGCyber, and other members of the committee online, and to Dr. Jackie for your presentation. Thank you ever so much for adding value to our member base in terms of understanding a bit more about cybersecurity and where we are in the South African milieu, South African context. To those who've attended online, have put in their comments, thank you so much. If you've got specific questions that you would like Dr. Jackie to answer, you're welcome to direct them to me and I will pass them on to him for responding. So thank you all for attending, and Dr. Jackie, once again, thank you to you. From the Institute of IT Professionals to our members and attendees, we appreciate your attendance and time. Have a wonderful evening. If you're traveling, travel safely and take care. And until next time, stay well. Bye-bye for now.